we can wait a
Hi,
little bit
Sheila.
longer.
Good
Yeah, I
afternoon.
would ask that you wait just a few minutes so I can get the
Sure.
live streaming and recording set.
Oh, that's a very practical thing. Thanks, Carol.
Uh-oh. Hey, Brett, are you doing your classes virtual or you're in person?
Oh, you're on mute, Brett.
All of my classes are virtual.
Oh,
So yeah, they're all virtual. Roger Williams has been very generous with making accommodations for those of us who need them. The campus is still open though. They're doing their testing, same testing procedure that they had last term. They did, I think, something like 95,000 tests in the fall term.
Wow.
They've got everybody on a schedule of being tested twice a week, and they had no transmission within their bubble for the fall.
Good.
So they were very pleased with that. So
good.
so, but yes, they're all and they're scattered. I have a student in Greece. I have a student in California. I have a student. They're all over. So it makes for an interesting challenge.
Hi, Mike and Heather.
Hi.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, John.
You're back?
I'm always here in the background.
He's lounging.
I have that.
John, are you expecting anyone else to arrive?
Yes. Carol, are you okay to go?
Yeah.
Would you like to take the roll?
Oops, somebody has feedback.
Somebody has two.
It might be that because Heather and Mike are in the same room.
Okay.
Here, where's my?
Okay. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to both be, one of you can come off mute.
Well, I did that before and it wasn't working. It was still giving
Oh, really?
feedback.
Okay,
Okay,
so it's the
so-
two speakers are close to one another.
It probably is. For
No
the
hearing
record,
from the
it's,
steers today.
pardon me?
Hi, Carol Ann.
No hearing from the steers today. They're not allowed to talk.
Oh,
Oh, they're in quarantine?
All right, it is 4:04 PM. Today is February 9th. This is the Wilbur Woods Stakeholders Committee meeting. For the record, we have Antonio Texera, the town administrator. We have John Gwynn, the chairman. Then we have Jason Burchard, Mike Steers, Sheila McIntosh, Sue Terrio, Carol Trocchi, Rob Mara, Brett McKenzie, and Heather Steers, and Chief Rains. And I have one attendee, which is Paul Golembeski, and I will move him over to be a panelist.
Terrific. Wow, we have a good attendance on a beautiful day. This really is spectacular. I haven't been down to Wilbur's Woods, but the West Main Road is just beautiful with all the snow. Hope there's not too much damage, but it's still beautiful. First item on the agenda is to approve the last minutes, which I think were December 22nd, if I remember correctly. Does anybody have any comment about them? Sue did an amazing job, or he is doing an amazing job of recording all these minutes.
So I would say that it's the Champlin Foundation and not the Chaplin Foundation.
Yep.
It's in two places.
Okay. Too bad we can't go to both.
Yeah, I know.
Right. If that's the only change, I think that Sue can probably accommodate that pretty easily. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve these minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Okay, great.
second.
Thank you, Paul, and welcome.
Yeah,
Any seconds?
Second.
Carol Trocki said it.
Okay, does anybody disagree? Then it's carried unanimously. The next item is, Tony, if you could report on the bids that were received in the town hall from two engineers, quite exciting. We got through the RFP process and we got two bids. Tony, what do you think?
Okay, yes, we did. We received two engineering bids, one from Able Engineering Corporation for $17,500 with hourly rate of $125 in the range of $125 to $150. Of course, keep in mind when I'm saying hourly rate is in addition to the $17,000. The other bid was from Civic Engineering Concepts Incorporated, and it was for the amount of $31,500 with the hourly rate of in the range of $110 to $200 an hour.
Just a correction, that's civil engineering.
I said Civic?
Yeah,
Okay,
just so that Sue has the right name.
Good.
thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you. So those were the two bidders. At the present time, we were hoping to have a recommendation this evening. However, we still need to meet because in reading through both of them, there is quite a few things we need to weigh in the metrics, to compare the two of them and to do a fair assessment as to who should be recommended for the work. So I would say there will be a recommendation to the council for the next meeting. So I'm going to call on our councilor Golembeski, John, myself, and Bill Moore to weigh in and for us to come up with a recommendation for to the council.
I think at the council meeting, Paul had observed that there was quite a difference between the two. So we thought it was worth looking at really carefully. But it sounds like if we can get together in the next couple of days, a recommendation could go to the council at the next meeting, which I think is
The 18th.
Yeah, the 18th.
Mhm.
So we can move right along then, in theory.
Who is civil engineering? I know who Able is. Able did the town landing. It's on
Bill
the
Smith.
arrows. Okay.
That's Mike
Bill
Smith.
Bill
Hey,
Smith.
Bill Smith,
Bill
I'm
Smith.
sorry. Bill Smith, yes.
So this is a legal element. So this is really town's business more than stakeholders, but we'll be sitting on pins and needles, I'm sure, trying to hope you pull the right bunny out of the hat. So thanks, Tony. We'll get together. That would be good. If I can help, I'll try, but it's really the town's business.
Mr. Brett McKenzie would like to speak.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I heard that the one from Able, did you say it was 17,000?
500.
And the one from Civil
Civil.
Engineering was 31,500?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, there seems to be such a huge difference. One seems almost double the other.
That's
this
why
one-
we need to do a little homework and make sure we
Okay.
weigh in and compare, do a fair comparison. And
Okay.
that we come up with the proper, or the most
All right.
suitable engineering firm.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Good. Well, that moves us on to the next item on the agenda, which I think was, I think we're going to have to start looking for some cash. So one of the questions was, and maybe Rob, you would be able to report in on this from the town landing. were successful in getting some DEM money. You said that you didn't notice that there was any available this time,
Right.
but if it were available, is it helpful and would we want it? Did they put constraints on us that we
Well,
wouldn't
the
want?
biggest constraint that's put on it is that whenever you use the money, the project has to be open to everyone, can't be restricted to town residents.
No,
So
could be a
that when
pro-
you accept money from the state, they want in perpetuity the piece of land or the project or the place open to everyone. So I'd say that, with the route that we're going down, DEM's not, that, first of all, it's not practical unless we want to open it up to everyone. Second is, I couldn't find that they had any money available this year.
Rob, I looked as well and I didn't see anything for 2021 either.
No.
Yeah, but I thought maybe I'm just looking in the wrong place.
It could be that they haven't updated the website, but I think Tony would have received notification from them for applications for projects, and I don't think we've received anything. So I don't see that they have any grants being worked for this fiscal year.
Well, that we may not want to go that route, but it's certainly, if that door is closed, that puts more pressure on us to try to figure out how we're going to pay for construction. Which brings up the next issue is if we, and Paul, I don't want to take you by surprise on this, but in 2 weeks, if we were to get a stroke on the meeting, on the town council agenda, we would need to get it done in the next 2 weeks, which is 50 signatures. And we would need to have an amount of money that we were going to ask for. I know that another organization in town is circulating a signature to request $10,000 and has probably 50 signatures. But if we want to go that route, we probably could, there are enough of us here to get 50 signatures together to Carol before the 1st of March. And Carol has a form which we can easily fill out. But I guess the first question is, Paul, should we request being on the town budget, or should we try to get a stroke, or should we just try to get private funds?
Or a combination of the two.
Or the combination of, yeah. I don't know if Paul's still on.
I think he was frozen.
Oh, that's too bad. Saved by the bell.
Yeah, no, I just plugged in my hardwire.
Okay.
So let's see, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Paul,
I heard, I don't want you to take you by surprise, Paul, and then it went quiet.
Okay,
So,
we just voted your
yeah,
we
thanks.
just voted your vote. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just got re-enlisted in the service again.
No, we were gonna ask if we don't go the DEM route, which may not even be an option if they don't have any money available, then we're going to probably be looking at asking the town for some cash and also trying to do private fundraising if we follow the model that the town landing did. But if we're going to try to get it, and one of the questions for you is, should we try for a stroke and try to get 50 signatures in the next 2 weeks, which I think we could do if we wanted to, or should we try to request something on in the town budget? And if so, how much do we ask for?
Well, and there's the rub. I mean, one, we don't know what it's gonna, we know what the engineering is gonna cost in a ballpark way now, but we have no idea what the project's gonna cost. So what are we gonna ask for? And if we ask for any amount, we're gonna have some justification behind it. You know, if we ask for $50,000 because we think it's gonna take, we're gonna get 25 in donations and it's gonna cost whatever. It's gonna be a tough stroke to sell. And I don't know how to go about it. And I think the DEM route, I agree. DEM does attach those strings about access, but there's also other strings in there about safeguards and things like handrails and stuff like that that can get involved in that as well. So I'm hesitant to take DEM money unless we're desperate and we have to. But then again, it's the control issue of Wilbur's Woods. If we want to maintain it to the town's way of thought, it could get a little troublesome. But I think I made that point before.
Yep. Well, we have a
John.
choice. Yes.
John, could I just say, I
Yep.
feel like our first step is let's find out if DEM has any money, is the first step. And then maybe the next step is find out what requirements DEM would have, like, would they be insisting on things like handrails? And then I feel like it's premature to go for a citizen stroke right now, because when I go out and ask for signatures, I want to be clear on I feel like this is where we're starting to get people to support what we're doing. And we want to be able to clearly communicate what that is. And I feel like at the moment, we don't have a clear picture. So I would hold off on the citizen stroke, but my question would be, if we were to end up with one of these two bids, do we have even the money for the engineering? And is maybe that what we should be focusing on right now, is the engineering money, not so much the construction money?
See, I think the issue with that is if we go the citizen stroke, let's go back to the landing. We went out, asked people to sign the petition because we knew we could apply for a DEM grant, that the grants were available. And we knew, or we had a feeling that the town would support us applying for a grant. That's different than this, because if we go to the town council and just ask for engineering money, all right, we get the engineering money. Well, what happens if it costs $250,000 to complete the plan? We don't have that. We have yet another year to wait to put that in the budget. You can't get it from DEM unless you want to open it up. And the town, it's a pretty big item for the town. So I think you just can't ask for engineering money. You have to have a thought about where the rest of the money is coming from.
Tony, one of the bidders is within the available funds and the other isn't. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So one is just a little bit over, one's under. So depending on what you decide, we may not need any engineering money, or we may. So that's one question. Another is, are we willing to wait for a whole year to start construction of the bridges in September 2022? Or do we try to move forward with something in 2021? 2022 seems a long way away. If we decide to not ask the town for some money to help us move it along, we're obligated, unless there's money, unless we can get money partway during the year from the town, which I don't know if that's possible. We're in a tough position right now because we have to either sell it on something that we think might be a part of the budget, or we have to wait for, well, what's that, 18 months practically, for construction. Rob, what was the total amount for Town Landing?
It's I believe, and Tony probably has more recent information, we had a big bid of about $78,000 from the contractor. And we spent $9,000 on engineering. And we have some other expenses coming up, like caps for the posts and stuff like that, but we collected money. So we collected almost $64,000. I think that what would be possible is collecting the money up to $200,000-300,000 through a camp. We collected almost $64,000 without a lot of effort.
Rob, to Sue's comment about how do we know what to ask people for unless we have a budget or an estimate? One of the responsibilities of this engineer is to try to give us an estimate.
Right.
But I don't know if that's, how valid. How close was the actual construction cost to the estimate? Was it close, or are they in different?
It was close. It was within $3,000.
Oh, that's really close.
Right. It didn't include the engineering, but I think if we went ahead with the engineering and the town has money to support the engineering. At worst case, then we could go to people and have a campaign to raise the rest of the money to implement the plan. That's all dependent upon the town not wanting us to open it up and try to find grants everywhere else, which it may not even be available anyway.
Yeah.
So I think if we're looking for a short-term route, do the engineering, let's go try to raise the money.
The other thing to keep in mind is that I think for Town Landing, you had open space grant funds from DEM.
Yes.
So that round is closed. It could potentially get funded again by the bond that's on the ballot.
It's not in the description for the bonds that are on the ballot. There's only $4 million. I just read the bond description for open space.
The other possibility from DEM, which it looks like the grant round for the recreational trail grant program just recently closed. That's revolving, but it's federal transportation money that comes to the state for that. I don't know if this would qualify, but it's a reimbursement grant. So you have to really be ready to go. You have to have something that's permitted and ready to be actionable. So that's something we could, keep an eye on down the line, but we're not close enough to be there yet.
But any grant is going to require open access.
Full public access. And I don't know if the recreation trail grant requires that it be ADA compliant. I don't think so, which gets at a little bit of what Paul was talking about with the just the building requirements, but it does specifically state in the description that it's meant to be accessible for all.
Now, they didn't ask us
standard of that, but that would actually be something public access notwithstanding. Wilbour Woods is actually, part of what we've been talking about is accessibility for a wide range of people and activities. So something to keep an eye on.
We weren't asked to be ADA compliant at the landing.
No, I don't. But because the trail grants are federal money, I don't know if that's different or not. And it doesn't clearly say in the application.
Carol, I just want to accurately represent what you're saying. So the trail grant, you said that window has closed. Are you saying that is federal money, not DEM?
It's through DEM.
Okay.
But the money comes from federal transportation funds.
Okay.
That get funneled through the state. And there is a 2021 grant round, but it looks like the application deadline was January 28th. But those are usually, it's a fund that you can kind of count on that money being there. So it may be something that is available again next year if we're closer to being ready. If we're looking for money or looking for a way to recoup some costs.
And that's the one where it is a recuperation of costs. So you pay it. Okay, gotcha.
It's a reimbursement, but you can put in, I think there's some space in it for in-kind contributions, volunteer contributions, things like that. We'd have to do a lot more research. I don't have a whole lot of experience, but it is one possible place to keep an eye on.
All right, and then Rob, if I can just go back to you, because I want to make sure I'm getting this right. So with the landing, the construction bid was $78,000, $9,000 was for engineering. You said you collected from private sources, 64,000.
Right.
How much was the actual DEM grant and the actual town contribution?
80,000 from DEM with a $20,000 match from the town,
Mhm.
of which 15,000 of that was the Citizen Stroke that paid for the engineering. Another 4,000 of it was the town had $4,000 in the landing budget. And they gave us credit for $19,000 worth of matching against the 20,000 that the town needed to put up. And there was money in this year's budget also
Okay.
for normal maintenance from the town. So
Okay, that helps.
that's how we made the 20%.
Thank you. I think what I'm a little worried about with the path that we could go down right now with rushing for the Citizen Stroke, I'm probably repeating myself, is that I feel like we've been working as a committee quietly. You know, we are being recorded, we are posting our meetings and all of that, but I feel like the town as a whole probably doesn't really know what we're doing. And I feel like I like Rob's idea because it gives us time to kind of get the word out about what we are hoping to do. And I'd like to bring the town along with us and feel like they're along with us. And also it'll give us time to figure out the feel about DEM. Like I know that there are people who don't want to go that route because we have to open it to everyone. But I think that there's others who aren't so worried about that. So it'll give us time also to tease that out.
Worst comes to worst, what we risk is spending the money on the engineering and not being able to raise money.
Because of delay or?
It
Well, if they
takes
have
work. It takes work to raise the money.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and it takes some seed money to raise the money. We only wrote people within plats surrounding the land. And we did some MailChimp through consolidated email lists that people had. But you would want a more townwide, and we put an ad, one ad, and we had lots of public relations for some reason. I think the Seconic Times is desperate to put anything in that paper. And so we got a lot of public relations. We had one ad, we did MailChimp, and we sent out a letter. The letter was the most successful in raising money. Second was the ad and the public relations. The MailChimp thing, I think people get emails, they toss them out, you know, they don't read them, they unsubscribe. So but we only mail 4 plats out of all of the plats in town. But that was 500 letters that, you know, 3 of us stuffed, wrote, printed. And so you're talking about 2,500 letters, not 500. We want the whole town.
Well, that will definitely take time, but your concern is that we might, if we get the low bidder, then we have the money and
Right.
we basically, then we decide to regroup and we don't ask for any additional town money because we don't know what it is, and we go through the engineering process and then we start fundraising privately this summer is what and looking for foundations. Is that route number
Yes.
1? The other route would be if the town picks the more expensive of the 2 engineers, we need, how much was it?
31,000,
21,000.
31.
So we need $6,000 more. 6,500 more immediately to get the engineer going. I should point out, though, that the way the RFP was structured, we don't need to have all of the money for engineering in hand because the engineers gave us breakdown, concept design phase, design development phase, and some of that, and one of the most expensive phases of all is supervision, and we wouldn't need that till
Right.
after we go to bid. So we probably, under both options, can get going with the unless Tony and the town doesn't want us to. I would imagine that we could get going with the engineering and which through the estimating, so we would have something this spring to know how much money to ask for. Does that make sense? Am I not being clear? Maybe I'm not being clear.
The only monkey wrench I could see to that proposal is DEM's requirements and scheduling and inspections and what they want, when they want it. That is the only, that's the unknown. That's like the engineer, we're assuming in the engineer's bid, he's dealing with a lot of that.
Yes, they are. Yep.
Yeah. So that's part of what the cost is. I just don't know. I mean, DEM may say, I think would be on, yeah, Swamp Road is coastal, it's DEM by Wilbur's Woods, that's right. So DEM may say, yeah, you can do it, but you got to wait until there's less than so much rain after so much time, and it's in the fall, but before the rain start. So those are variables that I have no idea how those would kick in.
I have a pretty good idea, Paul, that from the RFP, we can get going with getting even with the money that we have, even if we hire the more expensive engineer, we have enough money to get the engineer going and get the application into DEM, and so we won't need to deal with all of that till after we do bidding, which means and after we get construction going. So I think we're in pretty good shape to get going without those hurdles. The money, we can get the engineering going, we can get the design done and DEM permitting in theory done. The question is whether or not how to handle construction costs. The other interesting element is that the engineers, both of them had said that if we're lucky, we're not doing a full application to DEM because we're doing a repair of existing bridges that may not pertain to the eroding roadway, which may be more complicated, but it actually might go through EDEM faster than we think. So who knows? That's a remote possibility. So what's the general thought, that we proceed, as Sue said, and not ask for a stroke immediately because we're not ready, but to wait to see what the town, which engineer the town selects, and start work with that person. One of their first responsibilities is to meet with us so we can go over the program of what we want them to do, and then and proceed, and then they would give us pricing, and then we would use that to advise us on the direction we go for fundraising for construction. That's not much of a well-worded resolution, but but I think is that the right, in general, is that the best way we think we should go ahead?
Right, I think what you're saying is go ahead, select an engineer who will put together a plan.
Yep.
And at the time you have a plan that has a global estimate for what the project's going to cost, then we can decide at that point, the town can decide whether we apply for a grant through DEM, which means opening up the facility. I don't know what to call it. It's not a facility, but opening up Wilbour Woods to everyone, or doing it through private donations and town contributions. It would be very difficult to collect the full cost of the project from people without the town putting some money into the project.
Yep.
Well, Veterans Field is a good example. Paul, what did the town put in? 60,000, I think.
I'm not sure. I don't know why 78 pops in my head, but I don't know if that's the right number.
Out of the
think it was
total.
in the
But even so, to go forward and ask for money when you don't know how much something's going to cost,
Yeah.
it doesn't give you
Yeah,
a firm
can't.
footing to ask for it.
Right.
So I agree with Sue. I think we should, let's get the engineering and let's get going on the engineering. And, if it's apples to apples, then obviously we're going to go with a low bidder. But if there's something one missed or something one added in, then we have to find out what those differences, why the disparity. I mean, one's almost twice as much as the other. So either somebody missed something or somebody added something that wasn't part of it. We're not sure. That's why we have to find out which bid is which. Both great guys. I know them both. I've worked with them both. So it's not a matter of the quality of what we're going to get. It's a matter of the price we're going to pay for it.
That makes sense.
And both of them bid on the landing. So we have, Tony probably could dig out the bids that they put in and see what the difference was when they bid on the landing.
I recall that the Able Engineering was considerably lower than Bill Smith's proposal for the landing.
All I can say is they did a good job. And I'm sure Bill Smith would also do a good job.
Yeah, he did.
And over the years with those two engineering firms bidding against each other, I'd say it's been variable. Sometimes Able is high, sometimes Bill is low. So there's not a consistency of one always being lower than the other either. So
that makes sense.
And contractors, I've been in the trades. Contractors do it all the time. It's a great project, but I'm super busy. I'm just going to throw a big number at it because if I get it, okay, I'll make it worth my while. If I don't, then okay. So, I mean, that could be part of the process as well. Who knows?
Makes sense. So I don't know if we need a motion or whether we're just waiting, but I guess we should have a motion of some sort to basically say, let's see what the town decides as far as engineering. And not go for a stroke in the next 2 weeks because it's too early to know how much to ask for, and work with the engineer to figure out how much money is required, and then decide how to proceed when we have that in hand. I don't know. Is that a brief?
I see Sue nodding her head, trying to write all that down.
Well, this is Carol speaking. You don't really need a motion for that. I mean, you've discussed the subject, but you don't need to take an action because right now the bid proposals are up for review and will be in the council's hand at their next meeting. At that point, when it comes back to you, you may need to take some sort of a vote on how to proceed. But if you're not doing anything for financial town meeting and you're not pursuing DEM grants right this moment or any other type of grant, then you don't really need a motion right now.
I think, Carol, the only thing we're doing is deciding not to have a stroke, I guess.
Yeah, but
You don't need a motion.
You don't need a motion for that.
Carol, do we need a motion to let Tony and the town council decide on what engineering?
No.
No.
No, I
Okay.
think it's really town business, not ours.
Yeah, that's under their purview. So
It's a legal
yeah.
town business, yeah. All right. Well, it sounds like we're moving forward, which is good. The next item on the agenda is citizen stroke, and we talked about that. So now next item is habitat management. I got a call from Heather the other day, wondering if there might be some citizen involvement with deer exclosures and so on. Heather, would you like to, have you had any further thoughts on that?
You're on mute,
Or
Heather.
mute, Heather.
Yeah, sorry, thank you.
Okay.
So the Little Compton Garden Club has a history with Wilbur's Woods that I think everybody's aware of. And it seemed to me that this is an area where maybe they could help out. I missed the meeting, but Sue's minutes are fantastic because they gave, I think, a clear idea of what Carol suggested. So the Conservation Committee met and they're interested, but we need more details. And the financial commitment is an issue because the garden club doesn't have any money. We were supposed to have a garden tour last year, but obviously didn't. And that's how we raise funds for community projects. So that's up in the air, but there is interest. Capacity was a question, but our summer projects are what let's see, the stretch the garden club's members. But if this was the other time, I think we could pull this together. I'd like us to. I guess that's where I'm at. So I need to promote it, but I need more details.
Okay.
So, Heather, as a former science teacher, I was really excited about a real life experiment happening in Wilbour Woods.
That's great.
So I've just done a little bit of research, and so would maybe if we had a Zoom meeting and talked about I think there needs to be some thought as to what questions do we want to answer by doing this experiment? What are our hypotheses? What are our variables? All of that good scientific stuff. I have a few things I've printed out from online about deer exposure research. And so I think I could probably help with the shaping of it. And I also have a thought about a funding source too, when we get to that point. So I would be happy to work with you to try to get the details nailed down. And I think it would be awesome too if maybe Carol or anyone else would like to help us out with thinking about what the experiment would look like. So Carol, I don't know if you're available as a consultant. Jason, I don't know if you have any interest as the topic is forest regeneration, or whether you have enough going on already. So maybe we could have a little a Zoom meeting with a group of interested people to talk about what it could actually look like. And then Heather, your group could actually be maybe the people who execute it, or whatever involvement the Little Compton Garden Club wanted to have would be awesome.
Heather, could you have a group to get a group sponsored by that group sponsored by the garden club to get together on your own Zoom meeting and get back to us with a proposal?
I don't Zoom,
Or
thank you.
discussion?
You're zooming.
I don't Zoom, thank you. I go to Zoom meetings, I don't hold them. So I could, or maybe the president of the club does have a Zoom account. So, so I guess I think before I go to the garden club members
Yep.
and propose that they attend a meeting, I still think I need to know the parameters of this project. Carol made it sound a lot simpler than what Madam's science teacher is laying out. And I understand the science, I think it's excellent, but I'm just wondering if we have the capability to pull off what you're outlining. I mean, we're a bunch of old ladies, basically.
So my thinking in suggesting it is that I think forest regeneration in Wilbur Woods, especially in the areas that have been cleared, is a real question. And one of the ways to get at the deer aspect of that would be to set up 2 exclosures, one in, or 4 exclosures maybe, one in the cleared area, one not. You know, have a basis for a simple experiment that compared something that deer are able to access and something that they are not in a couple of different areas of Wilbur Woods. I think that Sue would be a fantastic person to take the charge in leading this effort.
I do too. I vote for Sue as well.
I would be happy to.
Look out, Sue, here comes the bus.
No, wait, we're not going to let her get a word in edgewise so that there are no buts. I would be happy to help or to provide comments or input or whatever I could do to help on the design side. And in talking briefly, it seemed like maybe the garden club, one of the biggest aspects that they could play or role that they might have is in sort of the potential educational benefit of how the project goes. You know, if we find out that stuff's growing here and not growing here, and what grows, you know, what are the deer eating and what are they not? Both understanding that in the context of Wilbur Woods, but also being able to have citizens and particularly gardeners and homeowners and people that are invested in managing their own lands sort of be able to make use of that information, talk about it, contribute to, you know, how we then use it to make decisions both in Wilbur Woods, but also as a community. So I think getting the garden club or garden clubs or whoever wants to be involved from that angle would be awesome. Especially if Sue's in charge.
Wait, okay, so I didn't, and Heather, I didn't mean to scare you away with my hypotheses and variables and like all that stuff.
It's very helpful, yes.
But I feel like let's talk, let's have a conversation. I have a Zoom account, so we could meet on it and see what we can come up with. Because again, I think the more people who are involved, like it brings people, Wilbur Woods, into people's sight, and if we're going to at some point be asking people for money, like the more people who are involved with Wilbur Woods and talking about it and thinking about it, like the better off we're going to be when it comes to that fundraising. So
no, I agree. I think it would be impressive for people to have that information. I don't have your expertise, and I don't know of any science teachers in the Little Compton Garden Club either. So
no, I think but nobody has to be. I think it's more just, I think it's just more thinking about the initial design, like where do you put your couple exclosures, and then from there it's more just monitoring it, making sure they haven't fallen down. And then when it comes to actually looking at what's growing there, like we'll need to get people who know what they're looking at. So I don't think that expertise is needed. It's more useful for thinking of your initial design and where are you going to put these exclosures? What questions do you hope to get answered? That's all.
As far as the mechanics of it go and the actual setting up of the enclosures and stuff like that, I mean, I can work with Tony in the maintenance department because I think they need to be actively aware, maybe not completely involved, but aware of what's going on in there. Because we had those episodes before, the maintenance department going in and mowing down what the garden club planted because there was no communication between the two groups. So
I'm so glad you bring that up at each meeting.
Well, I'm trying to keep the lines of communication open with the departments
Yeah.
because it will fall to the maintenance department to keep an eye on it, because they're the ones that periodically will be going in there, so that we can use them for reporting as a minimum, or even help setting it up.
Well, when I talked to John, I talked about monitoring. I mean, that sounded like something old ladies could do, but from I mean, what you're saying obviously makes sense as well. I mean, the more people involved, the better. And checking on I mean, I don't know how sturdy, how many posts you put in to make sure this is sturdy, and the whole scientific piece about where they should go is so above anybody's heads that I know, other than Carol and maybe Sue.
And Sue, I would make a proposal. I would propose that we put Sue in charge of sort of design and project management, and then she could, you know, figure out exactly where the garden club might plug in and where the public works maintenance would need to plug in, you know, so that everybody's coordinated. But to have some to have some dedicated time spent thinking through what questions are we trying to answer and how should we set up the design to make sure we answer them. And I'm glad to weigh in on that. But Sue, if it's something that you're excited to take the lead on, I think you'd do an awesome job, and you know, it'd be fun.
I do too.
As long as you're willing to weigh in on that and to assist, and then that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'd be happy to make a motion that Sue do that, but I think that's a little unfair to Sue to have an official motion.
Yes, you're right, because I'll be crushed if someone says no. It'll be like that sad face emoji will pop up. No, I really won't be crushed if someone steps forward and is like, I want to do this. So if there's someone else out there.
I thought you just did.
Very good, Carol.
Please,
I think
and
it
thank you.
sounds perfect. I like your proposal, Carol. And I like that we have a science teacher who knows what she's doing, who can figure out if and how the garden club ladies could help.
And if I could chime in for Rob, creating a buzz with this project might be good to help us get a higher visibility for fundraising and so on.
Right.
I agree.
And take whatever we learn in Wilbour Woods and extend it, you know, to other land in the surrounding area.
Mhm. There's certainly enough deer problems around where people would welcome.
But Carol, it's going to take a couple of years to see if it's working or not working. It's not a quick fix.
No, of course not. But just having the local information, and even if we're going to put exclosures up in areas that are going to be visible, you know, for people using Wilbour Woods to know, here's what, you know, to benefit from the knowledge of this is why we're doing this and this is what we're concerned about. And we're thinking about forest regeneration.
I can bring those up at announcement time at council meetings, so they'll get some more dissemination about this stuff going on at Wilbour Woods, just to get it out there.
I think we would want to put some simple signs up, you know, what's happening here, signs up in the woods at the exclosures, but would we consider a Secana Times article, et cetera, start getting the buzz out?
I think that's an excellent idea, John. Yeah, once we figure out what the experiment is and it's set up, I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, I think.
And that'll generate interest in what we're doing long-term too, or medium-term, you know, with the repair.
John, may I?
Yep.
Yeah, Tony.
Sure.
Okay. I'm glad that Sue volunteered. It's awesome, you know, that she volunteered, you know, a little twist, but that's okay. That being said, you know, I would not wait to get something on to the Secana Times. You know, it certainly would be a good idea to bring forward, you know, let's wait after the council meeting for the engineering piece. And then it would not hurt to really lay out some things already that the committee is doing. That would be one. Two, I know we talked about the Boy Scouts before and Boy Scout projects, especially a Scout project. Well, I think we can actually go a little further than that. And unfortunately, I did not have a chance to speak with the Scoutmaster, but certainly we should reach out to him and see if this could be ongoing, have them adopt Wilbur Woods, okay? And for every project that they do, it sort of comes along, so it's an investment from our youth into Wilbur Woods as well, So again, it's not a one-time project. Okay, they're going to go there, put up a bench, done and over. No, but actually bring them on board and have them adopt Wilbur Woods and work in conjunction with the committee and the upcoming project or the proposed project.
Sue, would
think
that
we
help
should
you?
wait. I think we should wait till Sue has laid this out.
Oh, no, I agree.
Okay.
But I think, Tony, what you're saying is like next, at the meeting when the town council picks an engineer and we start to go forward with engineering, that's something that can go into the paper. Like, is that what you're saying? Like, we can, I think like the more blurbs you get over time, like you keep it on people's radar. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes, it is. To show the public that Wilbur Woods is not being neglected, far from it, okay? There is quite a few initiatives in order to address what's going on over there and to maintain it, as it was, as the donors, did, the purpose, for people to enjoy it, but to maintain it, for the town to take responsibility, and certainly that's taken place.
So Tony, you're
Certainly.
saying that we should be ready to talk at the meeting, or whether we talk or you talk, or, there should be discussion at the meeting, basically a PR pitch ready to go, that we have half a dozen things or 3 things that we're planning to do in the years ahead, et cetera, so that we're ready to get some publicity. So it's a coherent, so it's coherent is what you're saying, I think.
Right.
John, Brett's got his hand up. I believe he's been waiting to speak.
That's
You're
all
up.
right. That's all right. I just wanted to make sure that as we start reaching out to groups of people, I think it's important to reach out to Steve and Lucy O'Connor,
Descendants.
because of their history with the with Wilbur Woods, and particularly as we start going towards the community, but talking to them early would be good.
So she's on the executive committee of the garden club.
Oh,
So
okay.
she's
Good.
already was part of the discussion. They had a meeting a few weeks, when I brought this up to them, they discussed this.
Good.
So
Good. Thank
she
you.
certainly would be involved.
Yeah. And the other thing, I have to beg off. My apologies for that, but I've got another Zoom coming up.
Oh, well, thank you for
Zoom
that
away.
wisdom, though. Thanks, Brett. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
So do you see any impediments of working with the Scouts? But I think maybe it's just a little too early, right, to get into that?
Like, I think the first thing is to, to get the design down, like how big will it be? Where will it be? But then I'm all for, and then absolutely see what the garden club might like to do. I think the more people involved, the better. I mean, there would be a construction day. There's definitely a need for monitoring because, I mean, if that fence falls down and the deer get in after it's been up for like 6 months, like even 5 minutes of deer in there could wreck it. So the more people we have monitoring, the better. But I think, like you said, John, I think it's not right at this moment. Let's get it designed and then figure out what their involvement could be.
Heather wants to speak.
This might be a perfect application for one of the deer cameras that people have up, monitoring the site.
Whoa! Oh
my
God.
A real practical application, not just a wow.
Right, like get the techies in. Like I think there is there's a program, oh, I think it's a makerspace program at the school where they have like a 3D printer and like they make things. And so, yeah, get some techies in there. That would be, or maybe the deer, they can film them just like coming up to the fence and
Put a microphone on it, you can interview them.
Drooling. Mm.
I had another thought. I wondered if a picture of the bridge in its state, is that a good thing to put in the paper? Or is it not look bad enough? I don't know what kind of photo you'd want to put in with your article. If we're trying to raise funds for a new bridge, it probably would be a good focus, but I don't know if that's correct or not. Just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a picture of the bridge with the giant boulders in front and the caption is, you know, can't support a car anymore or something. Yeah, I think that's totally a good idea.
Yeah, Bruce Burdette likes photos. Very important.
Oh, although I would suggest that would not be a good idea to kick off with something like that, the pictures, unless we had, you know, how much are we looking for? You know what I mean? So I would hold off on that until we're ready to go forward for the fundraising piece.
And this is more of a warm-up.
No, it's a good idea, Heather. I hear you. And eventually those pictures should get on. But if we do that right from the onset, I'm not sure they'll be very exciting, you know, to have additional facts to support enough information.
Okay, I've had experience, and whether or not something is newsworthy is up to Bruce Burdette.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah, it's really hard to control the news. You can, they have their own idea, reporters have their own ideas, yeah. Well, it sounds like we're moving forward with exciting new discussions of deer exclusions and so on. And the town council will be opening, we'll be meeting, a town council will be selecting an engineer pretty soon. Tony, when do you think a contract would be signed with the engineer? And then we would want to, one of the first things the engineer is supposed to do is to have a Zoom call with us for us to tell him or her, well, I guess actually in this case it's both men, but what our expectation is. So when would we have a next meeting?
Well, if the council approves it on Thursday, then certainly there's I would say you give yourself a week before you actually go through all the logistics of that, you know, contacting the contractor, signing the documentation, you know, making sure they understand what's required from them.
The council will sign the contract, not the committee.
Right,
Oh,
right.
yeah. Oh, yeah. But one of the ways the RFP was written, Carol, as you remember, is that the engineer in charge is supposed to meet with us pretty soon in the process to basically, after the contract is signed, I presume, to sort of launch the project with Tony.
Well, I wouldn't pick a date right now because you're going to want to know what available time the contractor will have. Okay. So once that's been chosen and they're at the stage where they're ready to sign a contract, I would say you would reach out to him and find out what date works for him to schedule a meeting, and then we schedule the meeting.
Okay. So where I'm coming from is the first or second week of March, but I think that depends on the town making the decision and approving it. So anyway.
I would also take the contractor on a site visit before the meeting.
I think that makes sense too. That might be our meeting.
You can't do that with a quorum because I can't follow you with Zoom.
Oh, that's true.
You can't have you know, a
I bet
majority.
he's
Savvy,
been
but
there.
I'm not that good.
Carol, I could see you out there with a video camera on Wilbur's Woods.
We could have the deer camera set up for
I
Zoom.
don't think it's anything that Carol couldn't do if she wanted to. Like, but I think that might be a one-time situation. Okay, so I guess I'll get back to everybody with a possible meeting. Well, that's just quite good. So is there any other business to
Sheila?
discuss?
John, I wanted to say that on January 1st, Mac and I walked through the wood and we parked to the right and looked down the roadway, and there was a tree across the road leaning over the tree. I left a message with Jason. He didn't recognize my phone number, so he was a little hesitant to get back to me. We went back. Oh, he sent us a picture like 2 hours later on New Year's Day. The tree was gone. You'd never know that the tree had been leaning over the road. It was so awesome.
Jason, how
I
beautiful.
just, I guess we can't thank him enough for all the good work he does.
Thank you. That's very nice of you.
Thanks, Jason. Very impressive.
Happy to help.
Well,
Heather,
Heather has her hand up.
Sorry, in a meeting that I had with Garden Club people, it came up that there were campers last summer. I'm assuming you all knew that, who set up camp over by the pond every weekend. And I said, did you mention it to anybody? And they said, no, we figured they had permission. So I said I would inquire. That's not allowed, is it?
I don't believe so. And nobody came to the
Not
council.
after dark, I don't think.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't make a comment. It's the first I heard of it. So anyway.
There were definitely a lot of families that were coming regularly on weekends. I wasn't aware of anybody camping overnight. Is that what was reported?
Yes.
The only thing that happened overnight in Wilbur's Woods was during the bio blitz, that there were people in and out of there all night long. But
That wasn't in the summer. That wasn't last summer.
yeah, but that's what I mean. So other than that, no one's supposed to be there. I think the chief's online with us. I'm not sure what the time frame is, but I think there's a shut off time for people to not be in there anymore.
11.
Dawn to dusk.
Yeah, I think it's dawn to dusk.
Dawn to
That's-
dusk.
Yeah, I mean, with a little gray area, obviously.
Okay, just thought that was interesting to me.
guess we'll just keep an eye out.
Can you imagine the mosquitoes in there?
Oh.
Oh my God.
And the flies. Oh,
Anyway, I digress.
Not recently, Paul. I think those were snowflakes.
Yeah, snowflakes.
All right.
I just want to thank Sue. I think that what she
Yeah.
and Carol have proposed is huge. And I'm so
It's
relieved.
huge.
Thank you.
It is huge. I thank you too. That it's fantastic.
Great. Sure. I'm excited.
Totally awesome.
Well, with that good news, if there's any other that we're ending on another high notes, is there any other comments? If not, I'll move to adjourn the meeting at whatever 5:06. And are there any seconds?
I'll second it.
Oh, is it unanimous? Thank you very much. We'll be back to you soon with